Welcome back, everybody. It's Chris Salcedo's show. I am glad to have you on board here. This is your Radio Republic, folks. Unlike your current federal government, your views are heard, listened to, and addressed right here on this program. I want to talk about some of these issues. An increasing link being found between the Russians and the Democrats. No collusion between Trump and the Russians, but Russia and the Democrats. Here to help me sort through all of these stories, Byron Henry. He's an appellate law expert with the law firm Scheef and Stone, L.L.P. in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Henry, welcome back to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Great to be with you, Chris.
All right. Last week, bombshell report out of the Hill that there was an investigation by the FBI into bribery while the whole Uranium One deal was going on. And for the folks who don't know what the Uranium One deal was all about, this is where Team Obama and Team Hillary basically gave away 20% of America's fissile material to make nuclear weapons and generate nuclear power to the now hated Russians. The fact that there was an FBI case that we didn't know about, Byron, what does this say to you?
Well, there's a couple prongs on this, Chris, to think about. There's really three prongs to this. One is the Podesta Group, the fact that they were lobbying for a foreign government on this deal. They hadn't disclosed it, which, of course, is a felony if it's proven. Then you've got the Clinton angle where it was given away. I put that in quote marks. You can't see it on the radio, but given away in return for basically a contemporaneous donation to the Clinton Foundation of $145 million. So we can't forget that generous contribution. So to the extent it was given away, it was awfully expensive. And thirdly, it's the Obama administration angle. When President Obama's State Department approved this transaction, they knew that there was an active, massive espionage action being directed both at the Clintons and in government with respect to this deal and other aspects of our government by the Russians. So at the time this was known, it was rubber stamped by the Obama administration, which is very concerning. And as you said earlier, special prosecutors, their job is not to investigate, it's to prosecute. Not a special investigator. You have to have a crime to prosecute, and they inevitably find crimes. And a while back, I was on your show and a few other shows and interviews, and just a stray remark I made early in the Russian, when Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer were making comments like, let's don't jump to conclusions. There's a lot of smoke here, but we need to get to governing. I was thinking, are they actually being reasonable about this Russian collusion thing? Are they actually saying there's nothing here early on? And it comes to find out maybe they weren't being reasonable. Maybe they knew, being senior Democrats, that there was some issues with the administration of the Democrats and the Russians that they really didn't want to pull that thread and unwind what a special prosecutor would find out in its investigation.
You know what? I'm right there with you. And I just said before we brought you on, I said pretty much the same thing. Like Harvey Weinstein was the worst kept secret in Hollywood, that he was a reprobate, but Hollywood protected him because he gave a lot of money to Democrats. He was a big money guy, and he was your ticket to fame. The same way the Democrats protected Team Obama and Hillary Clinton. As a matter of fact, Obama knew how crooked the Clintons were because Obama made a condition that he didn't want their exploits to taint his administration. So he made her sign an agreement that the Clinton Foundation would be separate from anything that the Obama administration was doing because he didn't want the corruption in there, or at least he didn't want to be caught. And he knew that the Clintons were sloppy and they believed they were owed this stuff, and he didn't want it rubbing off on their administration. It seems it's the worst kept secret among Democrat circles that Obama and Clinton were crooked.
Certainly, and I always found it odd. I know that there's a rivalry there, but, when administrations rotate to the next administration, goes Republican to Democrat, the first people to look for are the former occupants of the White House. It's kind of an incestuous type deal, but when President Bush became president, he tapped Andy Card, a former cabinet member under his father, to come back into the administration. So you always have a few new people, maybe your chief of staff is new, and then you have a lot of other people that kind of, quote, know what they're doing and have been in Washington. I always found it odd that President Obama did not tap the vast political knowledge of a lot of the Clinton cronies, as I like to call them, who were smart people, whether you agree with them on a policy or a political, to help him run the White House, or to help him run the government, since Bill Clinton was the most recent president of 8 years and had control of the executive branch for 8 years, and President Obama didn't tap that, and it just goes back to the rivalry I think we've heard in the news and whatnot. It may not just be a rivalry. It may be that President Obama knew that the Clintons could be poisoned poison for his presidency, especially scandal.
Well, yeah, and poison in more ways than one. You know what happens to folks who try to dish on the Clintons. Byron Henry, folks, he's an appellate law expert with the law firm Scheef and Stone, L.L.P. In Dallas, Texas, part of the Legal Eagle team here on the Chris Salcedo Show. You mentioned this earlier in the interview, and I want to circle back around. Another revelation, odd being reported by NBC News, that's out there about Robert Mueller now looking into the Podesta Group. Now, Paul Manafort is under the gun right now and under investigation because he didn't declare that he was working for a foreign government. And it turns out neither did the Podesta Group. They were working with Russians.
Exactly. And this is where I think this unwinding of the thread is going to prove very important. I believe, based on some reports and some, of course, I don't have any personal knowledge, but based on the reports I've read and putting things together, that Manafort may be in some trouble. We know they're working, and investigating because of these activities without declaring himself a foreign agent and some of the things he's up to. But it looks to me like there's a pretty strong case that the Podesta Group was directly lobbying a foreign government, wasn't registered. It's a felony, and the connections to John Podesta, we all know about the emails that came out in the DNC emails with respect to John Podesta. People don't understand, or if they don't, they should read and understand the importance of John Podesta and his circle to the Clintons. John Podesta is central, a key figure in both strategy and business dealings and politics for the Clintons. So if there's a connection to John Podesta and you start getting into emails and conversations with the Podesta Group, which is his brother, by the way, then there could be a treasure trove of both embarrassing and criminal information come out with respect to the Clintons, including, and it may not even have anything to do with the uranium. That's the thing I always thought would happen, is they'd start investigating something, looking into the DNC email hack, and they'd start seeing all these emails, and they'd find evidence of some corruption or a crime that didn't have anything to do with Russia. It's just, backdoor corruption and dealing, like the questions that got passed by Donna Brazile in the CNN debate thing. Things like that would basically be very embarrassing. But it looks like it may go further than that and actually be criminal. So I think if you want to keep your eye on the ball, keep your eye on the name Podesta with respect to the Clintons, and that is where you're going to find the connections.
Yeah, I got about 30 seconds left, and I want you to touch briefly on Fusion GPS. Democrats are very leery about what they have to say. Fusion GPS refuses Congress asking them where they got their money from to put out that fake, discredited Trump dossier. How long can they hold out and not divulge who's paying them, whether it be, many are speculating, like Senator Tom Cotton, it could be the Democrats, could be the Russians.
They can hold out as long as the court processes take. So Congress obviously has the right to compel that information if there's anything that's privileged. First Amendment, it's not journalistic privilege, it's not free press. So basically, as long as it takes the process to play out, they can hold out. But eventually they are going to have to disclose that information by court order or be held in contempt of court or by Congress. So we will find out who ordered this hit piece and paid for this hit piece on President Trump.
Yeah, and the hit piece, which has been the predicate of the entire Mueller investigation. Byron Henry, everybody, appellate law expert with the law firm Scheef and Stone, L.L.P. in Dallas, Texas. Sir, always appreciate the time on the Chris Salcedo Show.
My pleasure.